Hey, I welcome you to this podcast. It's an amazing day, an exciting day. Today's Sunday, and I feel we should talk about something spiritual. Yeah. And I want to talk about, for just a few minutes, promise, Song of Freedom. Song of Freedom. And it's something I want to talk to you about. Song of Freedom, no holding back. And I want to make a citation from David, from the Bible. And I'm just going to summarize this. From the Bible, we see David was an amazing man. But he started as a young boy, right? He started as a young shepherd boy. Come to think of it, we know David the king. We know of David who slew Goliath. We know of David the psalmist and the psalmster. But before David ever wrote a song for people to hear, before he wrote a song as a king, he wrote a song unto God when he was in the field. As artists, as musicians, as people whose art is in writing melodies, some of you are trying to figure out how to write these amazing songs that bless the word. And when you're trying to figure out how to write a song like that, that will be the next big hit. And you're asking yourself, when will my song be that hit that everybody's talking about? But the most important thing when you're writing a song is you need to learn how to write songs for your own deliverance that would heal you, that would take you out from a place of distress, a place of suffering, a place of pain. And you need to be able to put down that melody that will lift you up. Before you write a song that inspires people, write a song that inspires you. David said, "You are my hiding place, in whom I trust." And you build songs of deliverance. You surround me with songs of deliverance. I want you to not just write songs that are hits. I know you want to do that. But do you have a song that will set you free? David said, "You are my hiding place, in whom I trust. You are my song of deliverance." Before you have that amazing career, that amazing thing that brings you happiness, do you have joy inside? I want you to know, if anybody has ever had to write a song for their own freedom, as a matter of fact, if there's anybody that's ever had to write a song or sing a song to deliver, it should be your own song of your deliverance. Your own song of deliverance. When David was writing the songs, a lot of them came out from trouble. A lot of people think that the songs you write are songs that are only going to get placed. But the songs that David was writing was when he was afflicted, or he was running from his family, he was running from something, he wrote. You remember his son, Absalom? He said, "O Lord, how many are they that increase against me? Many say that they are against my soul, but there is no help for my soul." But David said, "But thou, O Lord, are my shield, my glory, and you are the lifter of my head." Now, when he messed up with Bathsheba, he said, "Lord, create in me a clean heart. Purify me." But check this, and I want you to take note of this. Don't take your spirit from me. I know I've messed up. I know I've fallen aback. I know I did something you told me not to do. But Father, please don't take your spirit from me. Is there anybody that ever had to pray and you know you've messed up real bad and you sang out all those songs from a place of pain, and not only were you forgiven, but you came up with a new grace, a new favor, a new mercy, because you've learned how to sing your way out of trouble? So I want to talk about how David transitioned for a minute. David, like I said, he was a shepherd boy. He was amazing. When I go to the passage, the scripture, is that David looked over his brothers, his fathers. He was overlooked by his brothers and his fathers. As a matter of fact, and I say that there are times when it was, there were times where it was time for Samuel to anoint the next king, right? And Samuel came to the house, and his father Jesse said, "Here are my sons." They were all in the house. He said, "Here, this is Abinadab, this is Eliab." And he said, "No, this is not him that I want to anoint." He said, "Do you have any more sons?" And this was the reply from his father, Jesse. He said, "Well, I got my son. There's one son like that out in the field. He's out with the sheep." So he said already to them, he said, "He's out in the field." In other words, there's no way it could be him. That was the description of his father, of David. He's out in the field. There's no way it could be him. And sometimes we feel that way. We feel that way where the description of people are the description of, we cannot attain to the certain positions, the height that God has placed on our life, because what they see doesn't qualify what God sees in us. And I want to talk to the person who's hearing my voice, who feels overlooked, who feel minimized, who feels opportunities are being taken away from you. It's just a reminder to let you know that the oil that is meant for you cannot fall on anybody else. That is what we call grace. What you have been anointed with will not be transferred to somebody else. The cup that Jesus was meant to drink was the cup he was meant to drink. Nobody else can drink it. And the Bible said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, I've ordained you. Your destiny, your grace, your blessing is for you. And if you feel in any point in your life where you feel that these opportunities are not coming, this privileges are not coming the way it should be, no one is taken away from you. You have to go back to the Creator to know what is happening. Because the Creator has no say on what the Creator has done for you. And I want to remind you, I don't care how many people have tried to block your opportunity. I don't care how many people have tried to say, well, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not talented enough. I'm here to say what God says is yours. What God says is yours. What God says is yours. And that shows you that the oil that is meant for you can never be transferred to anyone else. When God says it's yours, it's yours. It cannot go to anybody else. So if you believe that, where you are, I want you to say this with me. What is mine is mine. And in just 30 seconds, I just want you to just pray that, Lord, what you have ordained for me, what you have kept for me, let it be mine. What is mine, let it not be taken away from me. The oil that is for me, let it not be the very oil that will be against me. The oil that is for me, let it be the oil that would run and overflow in my head. And every opportunity that seems to be taken away from me, you said that you would overtake and we will recover them all. So in 30 seconds, you can bow your head and you can say those prayers. Nobody can block your favor. Nobody can take your promise. David is anointed to be king. He was anointed in front of his brothers. He was anointed to be king in front of the entire family. The one who said he would never be nothing. The one who said he had to stay out in the field. Now he's anointed in front of them. But listen, he was anointed to be king that day. But he didn't become king for years later. He was anointed that day, but he didn't become king that day. Why? Because he still had to go through the process. I know many of you think that the anointing would launch you into your next, but the anointing only gives you the power. You have to go through the process. I always tell my students that your intelligence is not the only qualification you need for outstanding success. I think I'm going to say that again. Your intelligence is not the only tool you require to make an outstanding success. You need the process. So there's a part of intelligence and there's a part of process. And for learners, that is hard work. For people out there, that is you going through the process to actualizing what God has said. Yes, you have been anointed, but the process would give you the pathway. You cannot get there without the process. I know most of you are just trying, yes, I'm anointed to do this, I'm destined to do this, and that is good. But you have to go through the process. I'm going to shock you. I'm going to say some things. Okay, when I was starting up, growing up, so there was a school that I applied for. It was kind of like not really a big school in somewhere. It was not really a big school. So I went there to make an interview, and the teacher said that I have a terrible sense of teaching. Right there in front of the students, that it doesn't even see the potential of me being a teacher. That I have a lot of work to do. It shattered me, because I've been teaching. As of that time, I've been an assistant lecturer. I was just coming freshly from the lecturing firm, now to a secondary school, to a high school, and a teacher who's never been a lecturer, probably has a BSc, I don't know, said I didn't have what it takes to be a teacher. He said that in front of the management team, because obviously he's the only one that knows the subject. And I was shocked, because everything I taught the students were back to back. And I wasn't given a job. So a few months after, I got a job in a very big school, a boarding school, a very big school. So I was there as, in lower teacher, just teaching the junior. Then the senior person recommended me to take over his position because he was leaving, so he left. I took over. So a few months after, we needed somebody to take over that position that had kept vacant. So I was, back then we didn't have this technology that we used to have. So it was more or less put in newspapers. So people came in, and they came into the school for interview, because obviously the school I was at that time was paid much better than the other school. And he was one of the applicants. He didn't even recognize me. And he was like, he said a lot of things about him, and I called his name and said, yeah. And I said, do you remember me? He said, no. I said, I was that guy you said, I don't have what it takes to be a teacher. You said that in front of the students, you said that in front of your management team. And you want to come work with me, the person you said, I don't have what it takes to be a teacher. And he shed tears that day. He said, it's not because I don't have what it takes, but because the way I taught was so good, he was scared of his job. Let's be careful. Let's be careful how we say words, because we don't know where we find ourselves in the future. Why he had an opportunity to probably earn more better, because obviously where I was is twice of the salary, twice or three times the salary of where he was. That would have been an opportunity for him. But because he had the destiny, he was anointed for greatness. But because of the process, most of the time God gives us the blessing, but our mouth is the thing that tears us that blessings away. And there was something I read in the journals. It said, and someone was praying a prayer, said, Lord, don't let my mouth be the reason people turn away from you. In the same vein, don't let your mouth be the reason why the promotion that God has placed upon your life doesn't come to actualization. He had the potential, but because of what he has planted, he didn't have good seed. So it is a process that gives you the pathway. It's the process. And you feel like I'm anointed to do this, but that your anointing is not good enough, because everybody's anointed. Everybody There is nobody on the surface of this earth who is not anointed. But the difference between the anointed one and the anointed one is the process. Why one is feeling, I'm entitled for the blessing. One is going through the process to get where God says you're going. So if you don't remember anything in this podcast, if you don't remember anything, remember that you cannot be excused from the process. David went through the process. He went through the journey. And we can call it different things, process, journey. We can say it's journey. His process started with him serving. For David, his process started with him serving in the king's court. He started serving in the king's Saul's court. I know serving is a bad word in this generation because we feel we are so good enough to be where people in leadership are, and we should be where they are, and because of that we don't need to serve. But let me tell you a little bit of secret that I've come to learn. If you want to get to the next place, serve where you're going. Serve where you're going. Serve where you're going. Serve where you're going. If you want to be an outstanding student, serve where you're going. If you want to be an outstanding person, serve where you're going. Why? Because impartation comes to people who are in proximity to the persons that's given it. Impartation comes to the people who are in proximity to the person that's given it. So if you're not anywhere near the person who gives wisdom, you can never get it. You can never get it. This is one of the key features about outstanding students. They serve. They pay the dues. They walk through the process. And there is that not relenting process of giving up. They always want to give it one more. Give it one more. Give it one more. Give it one more. Every student is intelligent. The difference is the process. The difference is the process. So you need to serve the people that you feel you're going to be in their places in years to come. So if you want to be a CEO, serve CEOs. If you want to be a millionaire, serve millionaires. If you want to be a billionaire, serve billionaires. You can have to start at the top. How many people are willing to stay at the bottom until God exhausts you to where you're going? In every school I've been, I serve. Title has never been the priority. The priority has always been service. 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 Serve, serve, serve. And God will exalt you. Because once He exalts you, there's no man that can take you down. Because you have gone through the process. You've gone through the process. So David is serving in the King Saul's court, in the King Saul court. But he was going back to his father Jesse's house. And one day Jesse tells David to bring his brother's lunch. So tell him to bring his brother's lunch because his brother was still fighting in Saul's army. And David was going back and forth to Jesse's house, from the king's court to his father's house, from the king's court to his father's house. Now, this was crazy because David had been anointed to be king in front of his brothers. But while he has been anointed, see what is happening here. He was serving his brothers in the field, going from his father's house, bringing them food, going from his brother's house. He was serving. Leaders are servants. Leaders are servants. Leaders are not egomaniac. Leaders are servants. So, you have to serve. When you serve, you'll be assigned to do something that you feel you're better than, that's beneath you. But this is what I learned. Do not ignore small assignments. Do not ignore small assignment. do not ignore small assignments, because your small assignments can put you in place for your biggest breakthrough. Your small assignments. I was teaching in a school, and I went in there as the ICT teacher. And I was given basic tasks to do. But every task I was given to do, I did with the whole of my heart. Sometimes I stay as late as 7, 8, I'm working. And one day, the owner of the school was having a breakthrough. So he said, "You're still in school?" I said, "Yes, I'm working. I'm trying to organize, prepare, do this, do that." So most time, she comes in and she gives me some tasks to do. And I do them, gets ready. The tasks that we're doing were tasks where very little, minor things, but it was done diligently. It was done, with utmost scrutiny. Few months prior to my arrival, there was a change in the system where everybody had to apply again for their respective position. And she said to herself, "I need people and management. I need management team that are willing and dedicated to carry out the tasks." Most people we have in leadership, they just assign duties. Oh, do this. Don't be afraid to embrace assignments. That's what I'm trying to say. Because it's in those little assignments, they can put you in place for your biggest breakthrough. And in no time, I was promoted into the management team, and the rest has been history. So what I'm saying, it all started with a small assignment. If David would never have taken his brothers that lunch, he would never have heard Goliath talking. You see that now? If he had never had taken the lunch to serve his brothers in the battlefield, he would never have met Goliath. He would never have made his breakthrough. So when he heard Goliath say, "Who is this guy? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?" He said, "I defeated lions. I defeated bears. So I can surely defeat him." Let me tell you something else that I learned. The little stuff you're going through gives you the small victories. But why do you need the small victories? Because they build you to get you to the next place. So it's building you to say, if I can do this, if I did that, I can do this. I'm building up a students for Learners Award, and I'm always telling her that it's not about you saying, "Oh, you do this, you do." It's all about building momentum. It's building that. If I can achieve this, if I can achieve this grade, if I can achieve this, if I can do that, then it builds that little victories, culminates to something greater. But it has to be in a process. I can do this. So if I did that, I can do this. Now I can defeat Goliath. Why? Because I defeated lions, I defeated bears. The small appointment set him up for the next place. We all know that David killed Goliath. And once he killed Goliath, he became an officer in King Saul's army. And King Saul is excited because he loves him and he's a great warrior. But this is what happens. The people started cheering for David just as loud as they are cheering for Saul. And Saul started to hate David. Not because of what David was doing, but because of the applaud David was getting. And this is what I've learned that has broken up so many organizations, broken up so many teams. People aren't as concerned about money as they're concerned about fame. They're not as concerned about money, they're concerned about credit. I've noticed about that. Credit. People want to have credit. There's always the fight of credit. Oh, I'm the one that did this. I'm the one that did this. I'm the one that did this. But it's not relevant. It's not relevant. All you have to do is go through the process, do the task, get the job done. And God that sees in secret, you see that, right? You see that. God that sees in secret would reward you openly. Will reward you openly. But is there anybody that's willing to say, some people are out there, if you don't say their name, if you don't put me, and I want to say this. My assignment is not controlled by who calls my name. No. So Saul hated David and he was trying to kill him. He said, first he threw the spear at him. David ducked the spear. Then he was trying to marry his daughter Michal, but of course, they did get married. But the first test he gave him, he said, go try to kill 100 Philistines and bring me back the stuff. Saul was trying to set David up to kill him, but David kept living. The anointing upon your head would keep on living in you. Whoever is trying to kill you, whoever is trying to put you down, as long as you're fervent with the process, God sees your work. He's going to keep you alive. But here's the crazy thing. David never dishonored Saul. Even in all the times that Saul was trying to kill David, David never spoke an ill word against him. If you want to be a leader, you cannot dishonor leaders. I'm going to say that again. If you want to be a leader, you cannot dishonor leaders. You cannot dishonor leaders. If you want to lead, you have to respect leaders. How are you going to be a leader if you're talking about the leaders that are over you? If God has anointed you, you cannot talk about God's anointed because you're not the only one who is anointed. And this is what I learned. Once you stop honoring, you lose favor. Now, Saul gets killed in the battlefield. And we all know that David becomes king. When David becomes king, the first thing he said, I'm going to get the Ark of the Covenant. I'm going to get the Ark of the Covenant that has been missing for Israel for 40 years. The Ark of the Covenant had been missing for 40 years. But here's the crazy thing. The Ark of the Covenant represents the glory and presence of God. And the Ark of God was, everybody knows it, was the chest that had the two cherubims between it. Then the glory of God hovered above it. And here what happened. The Ark of the Covenant was taken in battle 40 years prior to that. So then they kept going with their ritual. Israel kept doing the sacrifice. They kept doing the sacrifice, but the glory wasn't there. Because why? The Ark wasn't there. How many of us have had to go to churches or places where we keep doing these rituals? We dress up for the events, but there is no glory. There is no glory. I don't know about you, but I refuse to be part of any glory encounters if the presence of God is not there. You can't replace God's presence with anything. You can't replace God's presence with a light. You can't replace Him with anything. And he said, I'm going to get the presence of God back. I'm going to get the Ark of the Covenant back. He goes back. He goes to Abinadab's house where the Ark is. He goes and get it. And they try to make it convenient. They try to put the Ark in a cart. They try to make it convenient. They had 30,000 people, I think, with them. They were all shouting, singing, doing it wrong. How many knows everything loud is not right? Everything loud is not right. Just because you're making a lot of noise doesn't mean you're doing it the right way. Just because you're making a lot of noise doesn't mean you're doing it the right way. Those who make news don't make noise. Let your news speak silently loudly for you without you making noise. You don't show your worth by your talk. You show your worth by your works. I'm going to repeat that again. You don't show your worth by your talk. You show your worth by your work. People will talk about it. That's how you know you're doing a good job. People will talk about it. If you're a teacher, your student will talk about it. The parents will talk about it. People who've seen what you're doing will talk about it. They were taking the ark of the covenant, and then the oxen stumbled. And one of David's nephew, which was Ohio, tried to catch the ark. He tried to catch it and he fell dead. And here's the thing. Ahio had good intentions. Sometimes you can do the right thing with wrong intentions. Or you can do the wrong thing with right intentions. Ahio was just trying to save the ark, but you need to realize you cannot save the glory of God. I don't care how powerful you think you are, but you cannot save the glory of God. If the presence of God does not move without you in it, then you're doing something wrong. You see that? Stop making a department dependent on your presence. I've built systems. One of the churches I attended talked about system. Build a system even when you're not there. Your presence, it looks as if your presence is there. Stop building. Many people, they become so afraid that they try to build systems that looks as if they're dependent on them. You're not God. Build a system and move on. Build a system and move on. We don't care about your presence. We all want the presence of God. So Ahio tried to save the ark. He tried to hold it up. He fell dead. Here's the second way that David messed up. Well, the first way was David messed up. He didn't do his research. Most people don't make their research on anything. Make your research. In that field you are, in that particular thing you're doing. I'm using the teaching field because I'm a teacher. Make your research. What do I need to do to ensure that at the end of the day, the grades of my students are going to improve? Or what do I need to do to ensure that I have a huge number of students who are so dependent? Because the whole idea is, my own kind of teaching is building teachers out from students that can be well prepared, have the confidence to go on to challenge any area when it comes to that. He didn't do his research. The Ark of God was supposed to be carried on the shoulder by the silver pole through the loops of the Ark of the Covenant. But they put it on the cart because they tried to make it convenient. Sometimes carrying the glory of God is not convenient. You want to make it easy for you. You want to learn a few new songs when you get to church. You want to do the easiest songs that everybody's going to sing. So you have no responsibility other than just open your mouth and sing along. But sometimes you've got to open your mouth. You got to pray. Sometimes you got to start fasting. You have to be in the presence of God before you get to church. You see that? And invite the presence of God there. Carrying the glory of God is not always convenient. So David, of course, he gets upset. He gets nervous because the presence of God killed us. So he said, I'm going to leave. It was all he has. It was all that. So he leaves. He leaves the Ark of God at the Obed-Edom's house. Now, Obed-Edom, of course, had the Ark of Covenant there. Everybody's happy because when the glory got there, everyone in the house was blessed. Why? Because when the presence of God is, there is a fullness of joy. And in his right hand, a pleasure forevermore. So wherever the presence of God is what blessings, is where blessings are. So if you want to be blessed, get in the presence of God. Get in the presence of God. If you want to be restored, get in the presence of God. You can't shout your way to victory. You can't shout your way to victory. You must submit and be willing to be in the presence of God. David heard that the presence of God was in the ark, was in the ark of the covenant, in the house of Obed-Edom, and everybody was blessed. So now he's coming up on scriptures and he says, okay, I'm going to get that back. Why? Because I want my blessing back. I'm not going to let what is meant for me bless somebody else. Don't let what God has meant for you be what is blessing someone else. Do you understand? Can you hear me? If anybody says I'm not going to let somebody else get blessed for what God has promised me, then I want to get a covenant back, because what is mine should be mine. So he put the asshole pole to the ark of the household, took it from the house of Obed-Edom, and they start marching into Jerusalem. And what happens? David starts sacrificing. He has the people sacrificing along the way, and he dances along the way. If you want to see what God has for you, you're going to have to make sacrifices along the way. You're going to have to make sacrifices along the way. You're going to have to make some sacrifice along the way. Everything's not going to come easy for you. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. Some sacrifices. One of the things I prayed, and I will share this with you in this podcast, is before heading into the teaching profession, I made a prayer. My mom, we made a prayer, and she laid her hand over me. She said, son, as you step into this profession, everywhere you find your way and anywhere you find yourself, you will be a difference in that place. And that is that blessing that has carried me up till now to a global stage. Not just local, but international. So you're going to have to be able to dance till you get there. Even though you know what God promised you, you know what you're going to be. Can you dance till you're going to get there? And can you celebrate and praise why it's not looking the way it is now? Have you been able to dance until you got your blessings? Have you been able to dance until you got your breakthrough? Has anybody ever had to shout his way into destiny? Have you ever had to shout your way into the song of freedom? As a matter of fact, can you just shout now and believe that your deliverance is on your way? Is on the way. David is marching and the people are dancing on the way to Jerusalem. And all of a sudden, Michal, David's wife, sees them from the window. I mean, his old mean wife. Let me call him that way. Let me call her that way. She gets mad because David is praising God in a fashion that is not okay with her. Not everything has to be okay with you. Sometimes God expects some different strategies. Has everybody ever getting mad at you because of how you praise God? They said you were too loud. They said you were too rowdy. That you did too much, that you shout too much, you spin too much, you sing too much, you go too much, you do too much. Guess what? I don't care what they say, because you weren't there when God delivered me. You weren't there. So David is marching and he's shouting. All of a sudden, he dances out from his clothes. He dances out of his clothes. He's losing it. He does like we do at the tribe. He does what we do most time when we're in our private, when we're praising, we're jumping and we're celebrating. And he gets upstairs and his wife started giving that treatment. He was discussing today, and people will say all manner of things about you. And you need to realize that. And he says, praising God because what he has done for me should be the core and important thing for you. So I'm going to praise. I'm going to praise. I'm going to praise. The reason why they are mad at you, at your prayers, is because they are not fruitful. The reason why people are going to be mad at you is not because of what you're doing, but because while you're doing it, you're making progress. They're making progress. You're making progress, and they're not making. So too, they start envy. So here's my confession to you. Keep praising God. Ignore the people that are talking about you. Don't hold back. Write your songs of freedom. Don't keep silent. Open your mouth and shout.